Listen, if you have a 16-year-old at home who's blasé about getting their license, you're not the only one. According to Young Drivers of Canada, the average student is now over the age of 20. 20. Jennifer, are we going back and showing our age that we could not wait till we turned 16 to get our license?
I grew up in St. Catharines, Ontario, and it was the minute, because in a smaller town, it meant freedom. Also, your parents are like, yes, please drive yourself to work and your activities and to your friends. And then also, if you were older, like I had a friend who was born in January. Oh, that was sweet. But I actually think this is great. The longer that kids can hold onto their skateboards and their bicycles and go walking and spend some time, you know, with public transit, if available to them, why not? I do think driving is a life skill, so I would encourage younger people at some point to get their license because we still live in a country that's dependent by cars. That's how we get around. But I was renting a car last night because I don't own a car. I have a driver's license. And I was on the highway thinking, I was driving on the highway at 16? I mean, it is quite the...
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, it's true.
Quite the task.
To me, it's interesting because I love that you have a positive spin on it because I actually think that it is a symptom, not the problem. I think it's a symptom of something larger that is shifted with the young people. And I think it is, in general, some of it is good. I think there's environmental awareness. They're not rushing out to get cars. If we can take transit, there's Ubers, there's all this stuff. There's alternatives. But I also think it's because they're not leaving their homes. I actually think what's happening is something bigger, which is arrested development. Kids are not transitioning into adulthood the way that we transition into adulthood.
They're just like this,
so what was
they're
it, right? They're here. I mean, on the one hand, listen, they might be speaking with their friends. They don't have to run to Johnny's house if they could talk to Johnny on the phone. The problem is they're also not getting outside and moving their bodies. And so to me, I think this is symptomatic of something larger, which is we had rites of passage that made us move from childhood to adulthood. Getting your license was one of them. And I think we have delayed adulthood for many reasons. And I think one of them is they're not getting out of the house.
I don't know, you might be right, but I feel like there's always been some people who didn't get their license. And I mean, I'll be honest, I did judge some of those people at one point in time. Like one of my closest friends, her partner, her life partner, he's a very successful businessman, and he doesn't have his license. And they broke up temporarily a million years ago, and I was like, remember, he doesn't have his license. I kind of used it as a, like, he's a bad... Like,
I love the gender flip on that.
But now it actually
is
lovely. He's super successful, he's super happy, he lives in the city, he doesn't need it. I don't think it impacts his life in any way. And I think maybe normalizing this as a choice and not like a character flaw, I think would be a good thing. It would be good for the environment. It would be good. Again, it's not going to work for every city, but in a city like this, we want transit to get better. And the only way it's going to be is we have less cars on the road.
Okay, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing that a lot of these kids who aren't getting their license are still looking for their parents to drive them to and from places, and they're also using Uber. And personally, as a grown woman, I don't want to be sometimes, and I'm not saying there's a problem with this particular driving service, but I wouldn't want my teenage daughter in that car with that strange person going from place to place. So it's interesting that they're not getting their license, but they're leaning on other things. But it reminded me of the story that I just recently saw. There's an online course called Adulting at the University of Waterloo that is booming because these 20-somethings realize that they're in university and they don't have basic life skills. Probably driving is one of them. Listen to what they're learning in this class. How to navigate a grocery store, laundry, how to make real meals, not just ramen, and right? And there's a bunch of other basic things that we're all laughing because we knew how to do these things before we ever got into post-secondary education, but these kids are not, and they're blaming it on two things. First, the high schools aren't teaching these things, like simple things like how to sew. They don't have those classes anymore. And they're also blaming the helicopter parents who are too busy doing everything for their kids. So you got a kid who's 20-something years old who's like, I can't drive, I don't know how to sew, I don't know what to do in the grocery store.
But also ramen's tasty. Ramen's tasty.
Well, you gotta have something else in your
I didn't know how to do anything when I went to university.
Really?
I did not. I hadn't done my laundry for myself. And my mom was not a helicopter parent. She just kind of did her own things. She didn't teach me some of the
because you're a last
You don't want to hear my
But I
laundry story?
figured it out.
At 11 years old, my mom goes, come downstairs. Can you touch that button? And it was on the washing machine. I go, yeah. She goes, okay, let me teach you about separating whites and colors. 11 years old. So I wish.
Having a single parent, I was raised by a single mom, that also does it because you start learning those skills earlier. But I know some adults who should also probably take that course.
You know what? You're probably right.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.